Hey guys, welcome back to Learn Python the Hard Way. Today we're going to continue with the next exercise, and as always you can find the link to the current chapter in the description below. This is part of the paid section of the book, so you would actually need to purchase it, or feel free of course to just take a look and follow along. So in the last exercise we worked on some strings, and as part of that we used an escape sequence where we entered the characters \n. And we had a variable that showed the names of the month, and we used that \n character to basically insert some new lines between those different statements. And today we're going to take another look at some additional escape sequences that we can use to basically format our strings that we are using. We can use escape sequences, for example, to escape a single quote, or also to escape a double quote. And if we use a single quote and a double quote, then we can basically use, for example, a single quote within a double quote, or for example, a double quote within a single quote. And then alternatively, we can escape. For example, if we want to use a double quote within a double quote, we can escape that by entering a / character followed by the double quote, for example, that we want to escape. Or in the case of a single quote, if we have a string within two single quotes, then we can use the / single quote character here to escape that single quote. And the other way is to use triple quotes, which is to use 3 double quotes basically in a row. And then we can put as many strings in that sequence here between the opening double quote characters and the closing 3 double quote characters as we'd like, and all of that will be considered a string. So let's get started with that, and let's type out this code section here. As always, we're gonna open the terminal, navigate to the location where our current folder is in, and then we can basically create a new file by entering touch followed by the name of the file. So in this case, exercise10.py for Python, which is going to create a new file, and then we can open it, for example, in Visual Studio Code by typing code and then followed by the name of the code file. And we're going to enter code in order to open a new file in Visual Studio Code. Let's get started by actually typing out the first variable, which is going to start with a \t followed by the rest of the string. Next, we're going to have another variable, Persian cat, and in this case we're going to have a \n included, which, as we already know, is going to insert a new line at this particular section here. And then we're going to add a third variable, \cat, where we are going to basically escape a \ character. Alright, and then we can define, using the triple quotes that we learned about last time, we can add multiple strings with our multi-line string. And here within the multi-line string, we're going to add a \t character, \t again. So we can insert, it's going to insert additional tabs in here, so it will help with the indentation. And here we're going to add a \n \t, so we can also combine multiple of those escape sequences. And finally, we're going to print out those variables, starting with the first one, print tabbycar. Excuse me, it's actually supposed to be tabbycat. Then print out Persian cat, \cat, and finally fatcat. And let's save this and then basically run our code file here. So to do that, we can type in Python3, which we're using here, followed by the name of the file. And this is what we see. So let's compare that to the solution. So first of all, we have here the \t followed by the rest of the string, and that's going to insert a tab in here. So we can see there's a tab in the front, that's why it's indented, and then we have the rest of the string. Next up we have cat, which, as we can see here, has a \n character inserted. So we can see that after the split section here, after the first couple of words, we have the \n character, and that's going to insert a new line. So on a line is actually added on a second line. And here at the third variable, we have I'm a cat, and we escape the \ character. So instead of having two backslashes here, we have simply one because the other one has been escaped. And finally, we have here another variable which we print out, which starts with 3 double quotes for a multi-line string that we are using. And then within that, we have basically a list of 3 different entries. So here we can see that's also printed out, and each of those entries basically has a \t at the beginning, so we are indenting it. And in the case of grass, the last entry here, we can see this is in our code file. It's actually on the same line, but we inserted a \n in here, which is going to add another new line, and then \t to insert a tab. So that's basically how we can use escape sequences. And there are a number of different escape sequences that can be used with Python. Here is a table that shows it. We saw, for example, already the / escape sequence, a double backslashes here, which we've been using up here. We can also use / single quote character, / double quote, which is useful if you want to use a double quote within a string that's already using double quotes, or the same for the single quote. We can also have the option here to escape different ASCII characters, or a carriage return, or the tab, which we already saw before, and a number of additional options. For example, here character with a 16-bit hex value or with a 32-bit hex value. Alright, let's take a look at the study drills. So we can memorize all of these different escape sequences that we have in order to use them on a regular basis. And then instead of using the double quotes that we are using here, let's take a look and use single quotes. So let's switch over here and let's add 3 single quotes, and at the end another 3 single quotes. Let's save this, switch back to our terminal, and let's just run the command again. And as we can see, it still works. So instead of using double quotes, we can also use single quote characters. That works as well. And finally, we have the third exercise here. We can combine escape sequences and format strings to create a more complex format. So what we could do here, for example, is we can say we're going to print out this is a tabby cat, for example. And then we can say format. We can insert the variable tabby cat, and here at the end I'm just gonna open and close the curly braces to actually insert the variable in here. So let's see if that works. If we head back and we run the code again, then that didn't work. Let me see if I move it in here. Yeah, so that's fixed the issue. So you actually have to insert it within those curly braces here, or the parentheses rather. So within the print statement at the end of the string itself, we add dot format, and then we can pass in the variable that we want to use in those curly braces here. And that's exactly what's happening here. So we inserted tabbycat just at this position here where we added the opening and closing curly braces, and that basically replaced the curly braces with the variable that we passed in here. So let's take a look at some of the common student questions. So first one is, I still haven't completely figured out the last exercise. Should I continue? Yes, keep going instead of stopping. Take notes, listening things that you don't understand for each exercise. Periodically go through your notes and see if you can figure these things out after you've completed more exercises. Sometimes though, you may need to go back to a few exercises and do them again. Alright, so especially if you get stuck, we would typically sit down and figure out what we did wrong here, as we just did before, and then note how we can address that. And if you still can't figure it out, we may have to go back in time to some of the previous exercises just to take another look at them. Next question is, what makes // escape sequence special compared to the other ones? It's simply the way you would write out one / character. Think about why you would need this. Okay, so if we are using this and we want to use the /, then we can use it maybe if you're using it as part of a URL or something like that. That might be helpful in the context to work with it. Next question is, when I write // or /n, it doesn't work. That's because you're using a / and not a \. Yeah. Alright, so we always have to use the /, that's a special character, and that's being used to use the escape sequence. I don't get study drill 3. What do you mean by combine escape sequence formats? So that's basically what we saw here, how we can combine that. And finally, what's better, to use 3 single quotes or 3 double quotes for creating multi-line strings? That's entirely based on style. Go with 3 triple single quotes, basically the style for now, but be ready to use both of it. So the advantage of using 3 single quoted quotes here is that we have fewer characters on the screen, so it might be a little bit cleaner. Alright, so that's it for exercise number 10, and see you guys next time for exercise 11.